Greetings and welcome to Connecting with Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammad Awais. On this episode, we have a very amazing personality. She is the principal consultant at Avion Consulting, Nazma Rosado. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Nazma Rosado. Nazma, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
It's really interesting because it goes all the way back to when I was in university. So I went to university with the plan of going to medical school, and I thought I would be a neurosurgeon, and that was really what I wanted to do. But while I was there, I worked as a volunteer EMT, and I had just gone on a series of really bad calls in this one particular week, and I was feeling emotionally drained and exhausted by the time I met with my advisor for our regular check ins. It just so happened that my advisor was a paramedic that worked on the rig with me. So he had been on two of the three calls that I had been on. And he pulled me aside, during our conversation and said, I just want to say that your grades are fine. You're wonderful in lab, and you do a great job when you're out there as an EMT. I think you'd be a fine physician, and I think you'd be a great surgeon. But you have to really step back when you're working on someone, and you have to see that body as a system, not as a person. And I completely understand it. I think it is perhaps just so wise, and it was exactly the right context to give, because the emotional toll that it takes on healthcare workers of dealing with people who are sick, or potentially for those patients you can't save. But I went back to my dorm room and I thought about it, over the course of a few days, and I decided, although I had already been accepted to med school, I no longer wanted to go. And so I called those schools and pulled my applications, and basically had a very difficult conversation with my parents to let them know that I decided that I didn't want to go to medical school and that I wanted to go in a different direction. And my father asked, What made you change your mind? So I told him about that conversation with my advisor. And I said, I just realized that I never wanted to look at another person and see them as a system. I always wanted to see them as a person. And that really, has been sort of it was a pivotal turning point for me, where it's not about surgery, or it's not about, medical care, but it's about connecting with an individual and understanding what they need and where they are, and then helping them in that way. So I took a very different, pivot because of that. And it's been the best decision, although the hardest decision that I've ever made.
Thank you so much for sharing this. So, what is your higher purpose in life?
This is a tough question. I really, this is one that you have to truly reflect on for a bit. I would say that my higher purpose in life is to work in the service of others, right? So currently, much of what I do is as an executive coach. I also lead a lot of leadership development programs and things like that. But as a coach, I get to help people unlock the issues that have been holding them back. So I strongly believe in servant leadership and in helping others achieve their goals. So for me, I think it's about helping others to, better serve themselves so that they can better serve the organizations that really are powering the world, right? So I'm making my impact one individual at a time by listening and guiding and helping as best as I can. And I think that's my higher purpose.
Yeah, that's a powerful purpose. What have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
So I would say the first one relates back to that story about deciding not to go to medical school. I mean, I had spent my entire life with that one goal, and then, in the series of 3 days, made the decision not to. Um, I was very concerned about disappointing my parents in making that phone call and saying, "Yeah, this is not what I'm going to do." But I believed it, that I really, I knew myself, and I knew it no longer was the right thing for me. So that's how I overcame that one. I think another great challenge is imposter syndrome, right? It's that voice in the back of your head telling you you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, why you? And we all have it. Every single one of us, has a moment where we feel like, oh my gosh, am I the right person for this? And that has continuously been a challenge. And I think what's helped me overcome that has truly been working with other people as a coach and recognizing the fact that it's not just me, but that everyone has it. And also recognizing that if I didn't have that self doubt that crept in every once in a while, that would mean that I'm so obnoxious. I think I'm fantastic at everything. And I don't want to be that person. So that's helped me overcome that. Um, and I think the third thing really came with maturity into adulthood and realizing that for my entire life, I defined myself by my accomplishments. So how well I did at school, how well I did at work. And now as a grown up, I've learned that I have to really focus on not gaining things like, new titles, new positions, new jobs, or even, cars, houses, whatever, but it's about raising my children to be good human beings and really, instilling solid values. So it's been a challenge to kind of make that paradigm shift of, keep working and get the best of this and reach the next level, and then saying, it's no longer, it's not about me, it's about how can I help other people get there, and starting with those closest to me.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
So I've been asked this question multiple times on various, podcast interviews and whatnot. And I really struggled with it because when I think about it, I honestly can't nail like one failure that has the greatest impact, because truthfully, I failed many times. And for me, it's more about learning from those failures overall. And so what I've learned that is most important is that I used to argue, like when we were having a discussion on, should we go left or right? I would default into arguing to win or to prove that I'm right, which is not the right way to approach any situation, right? So it's not so much reflecting on one failure, but like looking at a series of them and saying, what was I doing wrong? And the realization is there's no winning and there's no point in proving to others that you're right or that you're smart or that you whatever it is, right? Because when you start thinking in those terms, you've lost sight of the bigger picture. So, when engaged with conflict with others, it's important to make sure that it's a healthy conflict where I'm focused on the decision that we're making or the problem that we're solving, and I'm not focused on me, which is what I had been previously. So, that's, I think, a series of failures that have given me a great learning.
What is the most impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
So, this is another question that I struggle with because there's so many great books out there. Sort of business books, there are plenty of wonderful ones, and then even just fiction, right? There's lots of great things. But I would have to cheat a little bit and say that the most impactful book for me is the one that I'm writing. Right. So, because it is a personal exploration, it's really a book that looks at my life experiences and my learnings and the positives and the negatives of each of those situations. So writing this book has allowed me to reflect on my life thus far and really explore the lessons that I can take from it. So it's definitely not the next great American novel, right? And it's not the most, mind-blowing, strategic analysis, book or something like that. But it's a real reflection on the life and experiences of a child of immigrants that, had big dreams and the challenges I had throughout that time and getting to where I am.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
So simply, I would love to gain more clients so that I can make more of an impact. And honestly, I want to finish that book. It's one of those things that I kind of put to the side and I pick it up every so often, and I really need to get it done.
What advice you will give to younger yourself?
Oh, my younger self has a lot to learn. I would tell my younger self to be more forgiving of myself, to understand that everyone is as insecure as I am. And all I really need to do is trust my gut and follow my passions and hold true to my values. And, there are many paths to get you to the same place, but so long as you're authentic and true to yourself, you'll get there.
How can we support you?
Well, I would say contact me. I love meeting new people, engaging with different conversations. And, it would be wonderful if we could connect. So I would say follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. We have the Avion Consulting website up as well. That's a great way to connect with me or any of the wonderful consultants that I work with on a daily basis. Um, so yeah, I mean, if there's a need for, my services, or if you're just looking to have a connection that you can have some dialogue with, I'd really love that.
What would you say about your guest appearance on the show?
This has been a great experience. It's giving me an opportunity to reflect, right? We don't always pause and think back. And this has given me a really nice opportunity to look at what some of my failures and successes have been and the learnings that I've gotten from them. So this has been really a great experience.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate you for this. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
I would say give yourself grace, right? Don't hold yourself back or get in your own way. There's no bigger critic than any of us have than ourselves, right? So just be kind and to yourself and generous to yourself, and lead with grace. Always assume that everyone has the best intentions, not necessarily bad intentions.
Thank you so much, Nazma, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Connecting with the Intent community and our entire team, we really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Wes. Until the next episode, all good wishes.